right. Let her rip.
Well, let's see. So it is July 7th. Happy summer. The summer of fun Zooms continues. Hopefully everybody's getting some R&R and finding some time maybe for some projects. If it's too hot upstairs, get down in the basement, nice and cool, and dig around and do some work. Maybe I took a couple of stabs at some reorganization work and with mixed success, but we'll leave it at that. And so this evening we asked if somebody has a summer project or a clock radio, especially we're interested in somebody with, see Gary has a clock there, and I may run down to the cellar and I don't have a lot. I do have actually, I have one that's I can walk to pretty quickly and grab. So we were looking for clocks, clock radios, something to do with a clock, with a radio built in. If you have even a summer project or a summer find you might like to share. So don't feel we exclusively have to do clocks this evening. So
yep, I have a story for you.
That, I didn't realize this until I saw it on ARF. I believe it was ARF. I don't think it was the Philco forum. There is actually a Facebook collectors group of clock radio enthusiasts. So if I can find the link, I will post it up in the IO. It's talk about a subculture. I mean, I knew that they were a popular, especially sort of 50s and 60s genre, that some people, some very cool colors and interesting designs. But I had no clue that it was, much like transistors can be, this whole separate world where there are people who do nothing but the clock radio collecting. And you see some neat stuff, you see sort of the pedestrian stuff sometimes at some of the meets, but found some very unique pieces on that page. So that's an area that doesn't sometimes get all the attention maybe it should, but we'll give it a little attention tonight. So anybody have anything else? I did have a question, actually. Greg, you were up at a car show up in Wisconsin. You had mentioned, I had seen your post the other day. Any radios at the car show, or is it all cars? Sometimes I know, especially at the Pennsylvania car shows, guys come home with some radio stuff.
Well, they always have a big flea market in the park there, and each year it's dwindling less and less. I think during COVID, people discovered the internet and eBay, and more people are selling it from home than setting up at meets. But last year I did find a Philco there, a 36 bullet, fairly cheap, and it was one that was covered in white latex paint. But you can find them at car shows once in a while. We're going to a big one tomorrow. I mentioned to John at Iola, which is the biggest one in the Midwest. And I bought a radio there last year. You generally find something there.
Because sometimes when you go to a different, collector's theme, the cars are what people are drawn for, and they're getting the big bucks. But sometimes you can pick something up at a good price because
Right.
competition is a lot less for a radio at a show like that, because most people are looking for car parts, cars,
Mhm.
car talk, etc. So, well, you have to give us some feedback
Sure.
when you after you've done your
And
feeling
speaking of
report.
clocks, I remember you got a clock from me a few years ago.
I did. I have that one, which is a solo clock, which
Right.
actually have 2 rooms over. And I also have another, I have a pretty neat, I wish my camera resolution was better. It won't do my Philco clock radio justice, but we'll give it a shot. So let's see, John, where Gary has his clock radio right behind him.
Actually, Paul, just before we do it, do we have any general announcements? Anything?
I don't have.
The only general announcement I have is that we are making progress on finding a new venue for the Nebby show. And Bob knows this because he's on the venue search committee, but next Wednesday, a bunch of us are going to go down. We've contacted and evaluated a bunch of venues, and there's 2 that stand out above the others. And so there's like a sort of like a winner and a runner-up. And we're going to be visiting those next Wednesday getting our remaining questions answered and, you know, seeing the places with our own eyes, because it's kind of hard to visualize the place with and evaluate its suitability completely without doing that. You know, talk to the people and see if we can't make a decision and have a venue for the March show. And so stay tuned on that. But just to let you guys know, you know, we've been working on it fairly diligently.
Very good, Larry. Hey, Larry, just if you, you know, you don't have to reveal too much at this early juncture, but are they New Hampshire or Mass based? Give us a clue.
They are both in New Hampshire, and that was kind of a foregone conclusion from the first, because there's been problems at the radio show when they were at Westford with the Massachusetts tax collectors coming in, asking for sales tax and creating problems for people. And on at least one occasion, they effectively shut down the show because all the vendors who saw what was going on packed up and left in a hurry. So we don't want those kind of hassles, and any other New England state could potentially have those problems. Now, there's a lot of shows, a lot of hamfests where there are no problems, but the potential is there. So our first, if we could all do it, and for the first round anyway, we've restricted our consideration to New Hampshire.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the shows themselves are, you know, a big investment of effort on so many people's parts. I think the last thing anybody would need, given, you know, whatever things you could encounter at the last minute of the show that could cause you some undue stress and anxiety, the last thing we need is the tax man. So
You got it.
I hear the Beatles in the background.
Huh.
Yeah.
If you buy a tube, I'll tax the heat, you know.
Yeah, you ever hear Stevie Ray Vaughan's cover of that song?
I will listen to it.
Yeah,
It's one of
yeah.
my favorites.
It's well, if you like Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I do, it's let's just say I prefer it.
Good deal. All right.
Oh,
Anything else? Anybody have any comments, questions before we get rolling?
Hey, Rob, did you want to sneak in there and
Yeah, do I just press share screen?
sure, of course. You should be able to share.
Okay. Whoa, what's it doing here? Oh.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Anybody seeing this?
Yes.
All right, I had a general question. See this square that's taken out of the veneer. I went online and looking at this Philco model, they all have it. It's just like a little square of a different color veneer. And I was trying to think, is that for some option? You know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But let's see, how do I get to the next picture here? I guess I probably have to go here.
Or you could, if it's in the same sequence, just hit the arrow. There you go.
Yeah. That's not the one I wanted either. That's the decal. Isn't that an interesting thing to find? I've never seen a cap blow up like that.
Wow.
Kaboom.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And I thought I had the picture all set up, but I guess I don't.
You can double check. You can unshare and if you need to.
There was somebody down in the New Jersey Antique Radio Club who was seeking one of those little roll top Philco
Oh yeah.
portables. I believe he was directed to a source where he could get one. And several seemed to pop up when he inquired.
Well, yeah,
Nifty
yeah.
little set.
I don't think they're that rare.
No.
I really,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is I can't see the rest of the tuning condenser. Is that a 3-gang?
Well, let's see if I still have a picture. arrows aren't there.
They're pretty decent little sets for what they are as far as.
Yeah.
That's quite a visual, this cap right in front of us.
It looks like it's a two gang, I think.
Two.
No, I probably have to try to pull it apart. But it's really the other part of the cabinet that
I've seen a couple, but I may not have been giving them a close enough scrutiny that I noticed a square chunk of veneer, and this is a group of termites who only eat in rectangle. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll dig that out. But this is the one that I have a question on. You look this, it's like, yeah, the square veneer is gone, but then this is chewed and it's cracked in here. I was just gonna put new veneer strips on both of them. Think there'll be any difficulty? Is there anything better to do with this cracked wood?
Well, I'm not much of a woodworker.
You
Great.
may have to go with something thicker on the inside for the substrate, then put the veneer over the top of that. Because the little square looks like it's the substrate that came out.
That just confused me. Why is it there? But they're there. Yeah. That's really all I had. I think the coolest picture though is that capacitor.
Yeah.
Look at that thing. But I opened it up and I went, wow.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, are you debating whether to replace it or?
Oh, no.
Try plugging it in.
My recommendation would be to do something about that.
Yeah. Well, some scotch tape and maybe a little bit of spit and probably be okay.
And that's why we elected, that's why Larry was elected president. Those are sage words.
Yeah, that's why I make the big bucks.
That's right.
All
I
right.
wonder if that happened when it was under AC or battery operation. I guess AC.
I don't know. It had a wrong tube in it. And I thought maybe there's only one Loctite tube and it was the wrong one. But I pulled the schematics of the tubes and it should not have caused that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. I don't think it should have. So whatever, I'll just pull it and replace it and go through the whole set as if it's going to explode at any minute.
Rob,
That's-
the next time we want to see a shiny capacitor there and this dirty, dull transformer and condenser.
Yeah.
Yes,
It'll take a
indeed.
while, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I've got all kinds of projects going on right now. This is just a new one. I was at a yard sale and just out of the crowd, I just asked them if they had any old radios because I have not found many here. And they says, well, we have this one. And so $5, it was worth it, Why not? So, all right. Do I have to do anything here?
Like a coffee.
Here, there you go.
Oh, okay. Cool.
All right.
Let's see if I can get it.
It's got the screwdriver now.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was off. I'm just gonna take a look at this was a 3 gang.
Well,
It
$5.
It is,
Right.
it's 3 gang. Well, if you can see in there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Oh, we got the-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Confirmed.
Yeah,
and I always wondered, some of them seem to be, built pretty darn well. And, I'm guessing, if they were, truly meant to be battery portable sets, I mean, if you're up in the middle of nowhere, maybe they were trying to make sure you had something that was a little bit, selective. And if you had a portable that you were going to take out into the woods back in 1950 something and, it couldn't pick up much of a signal, what the heck good is it,
Yeah. Well, that's actually a 1946 and Philco
Yeah,
sold a ton of those that year. That and the 1201 were their biggest sellers that year. That the 350 portable he's got.
I have
You
a
know,
similar one in the basement. I didn't bring it up. But anyways,
well, it's a good project.
yeah, it's
I
gonna be
mean,
fun.
$5, a small iced coffee, I paid $2.74 the other day. So
Yeah.
you got a good deal.
That's just,
I've been lucky lately with a couple of things like that. Yeah.
cool.
Sometimes they find you. You don't have to hunt too hard. All right. Well, who has something else they would like to share with the group? Gary, your radio there is intriguing me. So
Oh, the clock radio?
I'm presuming that's what you brought for show and tell.
Yeah, it is actually. This was a acquisition on the last day of Kutztown, the Saturday.
The last day it was still left.
Well, I didn't notice it the other 2 days.
It had your name on it.
Yeah,
It's because of all the other junk that was.
I think it did. But this is, I guess that the brand name shouldn't surprise anybody. It's a guild.
Yes.
Because they always put radios in different kind of cabinets. And this is an AM 7-tube AC/DC chassis AM FM radio.
Very nice.
In fact, I think the whole company only had a 5-tube AM chassis and a 7-tube AM FM chassis, and that went into everything. Anyway, this is it's an electric clock, a telecon motor clock movement, no connection to the radio. It can't turn it on or off, or anything. And what I thought was really cool about this was it's not plugged in, but the radio dial pointer. And since I learned other models of this actually has like a little neon bulb that lights up.
Oh, very nice.
To act as a pointer when you move it across the dial.
Oh, cool. That's
So this
neat.
the clock runs quiet. The radio sounds like it either has a gassy tube or some bed caps or needs an alignment. And the dial cord slips, so I still have to work on it.
That's cool.
Okay, there's more.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. That's
There's
good.
more.
That's pretty good size clock radio.
It could go on the shelf or it could hang on the wall.
Oh,
It could form your night table, but it could fully take it up in space.
If you want to hang it on the wall, it comes with this thing you attach to the bottom, which simulated weights and a pendulum.
Very cool.
I guess I forgot they had these things on it. I guess you can't see them very well, but so it could be hung on a wall. And the guy I bought it from said frequently this is missing,
Yes, I would think so. Yeah.
but this is the only one I've ever seen.
Now, hey, Gary, that little wooden, it looks like almost like a little shelf underneath the knobs for the radio itself. That would fold up and cover the dial as well as the knob.
Yes.
Just view the clock.
Yeah.
There you go.
Very classy.
These Guild radio, I think this is cool. I love it. It was only $60. And I just look, I had to have it. I'm not a Guild radios in general, what they produced doesn't really excite me all that much. I think they're kind of hokey. There are probably people there who are ready to put their hands around my neck now. I thought this was particularly good. But I got two stories about Guild radios.
Sure.
One is my parents had the Country Bell. That's another model. Actually, I think it's the most common model they made because you see them all over. It's like an old wall telephone with either an AM or an AM/FM radio in it, and and it had the microphone thing here, had the removable earpiece. But all you did to that was take it off. I turned the radio on, put it on the shelf in front of the radio. And anyway, my parents had that in their kitchen up until they left the house in Connecticut. They moved away in 1973. And I think I inherited that radio at that point. I don't have it anymore. But one time in the 60s, my father actually got up from the kitchen table to make a phone call and walked over to it instead of the wall phone. He actually got to the point where he went in front of it and was reaching for the receipt before he realized, we had modern phones in Connecticut at that time, with dials and stuff. And the other thing I think is kind of not unusual or neat, but anyway, I'm not really into them, but I did see two very rare models of theirs, like 20 years ago or so, at an antique shop, I think on Route 2, east of 91. Route 2 is a 2-lane road, east of 91 still, before turning in the highway. There's an antique shop there and an old train station. Not sure if it's freight or passenger station. Anyway, they had the Gilded New Englander there, which actually was a console, a hi-fi stereo radio that they made, built into a console. Smallish roll-top desk is what it looked like. So, okay, I got to take back. They didn't use that 5 or 7 tube AC/DC chassis and everything, because that had a much better radio in it. I saw one of those. The price wasn't that high. I mean, if I had wanted it, I would have bought it. But the room and that I just didn't get it. And I've never seen one else in person. And the other thing I saw of theirs once, and that was about roughly the same time, was that old Victrola that stood on the floor with legs, had a big horn speaker coming out the top. And the radio speaker was in the bell for the horn. I saw that that was in an antique store on Route 44 in New Hartford, Connecticut. That was a couple of $100, I think, $200-300 maybe. I've never seen another one of those again. I just see the Country Bell, the Town Crier, and the Ice Spice Box.
The Spice Rack, yeah.
Those three seem to be the most common you see at radio swap meets.
The cases.
I don't know how common or not this is. On Radio Attic, the prices for it on Radio Attic that have sold are very high. But that's what I see at swap meets, which is how I gauge if something's rare or not, or common, is how often do I run into them.
Yeah.
I think they were
cool.
a West Coast manufacturer. They, interesting little company, but something for everyone.
The cabinets that they weren't really economy cabinets. They were all hardwood.
Yeah,
Yep.
Solid. That's a nice piece. Well, good luck with it.
Oh, thank you.
Put it all up and get it rolling. You'll have to give us a listen and a demo.
Thanks.
I was going to say I have several projects ahead of it, but I can move it up a little closer to the front of the line.
We got to see that. We got to see that dial light.
That is cool. I thought that was the coolest thing. That's almost half of what made me buy it. That and the fact that it had a clock in it. Because I collect clocks too.
Oh, okay.
General Electric had a few sets that had had a light that would follow the pointer, or just kind of give it a little extra, set it apart. None of them that I've seen were anything spectacular, 5 and 6 tube sets, but usually plastic. But that gave it a little extra pizzazz, I guess, compared to some of the other ones on the shelf. But that's and the nice thing is, doesn't seem to be particularly heavily scratched, or the finish looks pretty good.
Oh, it's very good shape.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it was well stored somewhere before you got your hands on it.
Yeah, like nothing ever happened to it.
Yep, nice piece.
No, I think you got a more than reasonable deal.
Oh, I'm pleased. I'm very, very happy.
Very good.
I just hope replacing the dial cord doesn't turn into a very long story.
They can. They can. Be glad it's.
Yeah, I know.
Be glad it's not a German set.
Yeah.
They
Indeed.
brought men to their knees. Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you for sharing.
No, you're welcome.
Well, Paul,
Yeah.
this may be just time for our slight deviation, because I see our friend Dr. Tom Pereira has arrived. We can give him his slide to give us a trailer video, or actually slideshow of his trek into Germany to retrieve some rare and unusual German vintage electronics. So, Tom, would this be a good time for you to hop in and give us a little preview for a future Zoom meeting?
Sounds good to me. Can you see? I'm going to just try sharing here.
All right.
Are you getting that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just going to take you on a 5 or 10 minute trip around the huge flea market in Germany that I just got back from. I would say this is the biggest antique radio show that I've ever been to. It outdoes AWA, it outdoes Dayton. It's fairly comparable to the very best days of the New Jersey, the Pennsylvania show. But it's totally fantastic because everything's different from anything we've ever seen except John. John's seen all this stuff before, I think. So let me just run through a few of these amazing things, if I can get this to behave. Okay, the reason I go to this show, of course, is to pick up Enigma machines. And my wife and I are standing here with a U-boat Enigma, the rarest of all Enigma machines, on the left over there, the wooden box, and on the right is an Army Enigma. And to get two Enigmas in one year is absolutely fantastic. I've been doing this show for 40 years and trying to pick up an Enigma or two every year during that time. And this time we really hit the jackpot. This U-boat Enigma was found completely untouched in an attic where it had been since the end of the war. All the original settings were intact on it. So you could look back and figure out just what the day's key was for that U-boat during that time. So that's fantastic, but forget that and let's move on to radios. Here's a stack of World War II German radios at the end of a table, and World War II German telegraph keys right under these. And we'll just move on to the right. We see a one of these transmitters that hangs from a balloon up here in the above an unknown box. And we're starting to see some of these amazing German and other portable radios turning up here as we move to the right. We keep on going and we see all kinds of things. If I blow up enlarge the picture a little bit, you can notice that the one in the middle is a Philips, sorry about
Oh, yeah. Lots of Phillips.
and maybe that's recognizable to John. I don't know if that's a common one or not.
Yeah, that seems fairly common, yeah.
We go on to look at some of the other radios. I'm just panning along this one table here, and you can
Wow.
see that the one down below is a SEIBT, it looks like.
Yeah,
Never, have you ever heard of that, John?
I have the name. I don't see the really early stuff, only in
Okay.
pictures. That's cool. That's really cool.
Little better picture of it and some of the other plastic radios there. Here's another little family grouping of radios. And the neat thing is that virtually none of these are radios that any of us have ever seen before. And that I find quite fascinating. Here's another grouping of radios. And this guy is let's see if I can enlarge it. It's a Shalico Traumland.
So Traumland means dreamland. Shalico, so there are all sorts of names like small manufacturers that long are gone before.
Okay.
That's cool. That's really cool.
We move on. Here's a really neat little radio kit. A radio laboratory with its something or other for school and self-education, it says. And you open this thing up, and of course I'm blurred because my hands are shaky, but you can see they're all the parts that you need there to build all kinds of little radios. And of course, the manual's in German, so it's a little difficult. This is a fantastic radio. It doesn't look like much, but it is actually one of the very few examples of a Polish World War II spy radio. You just close that case, and that's a 6L6 final output tube there. And it's just an amazing radio. A little bit expensive for me at about 5,000 euros, which is about the equivalent of $5,000. So I didn't go for that one. Here's a telegraph key, an old telegraph key that's rather nice. And moving on through other radios, tubes.
Hmm.
a display case full of wonderful tubes of all kinds.
Wow.
And Philco down at the bottom, some of the neat little foreign radios starting to turn up. The upper left of this picture is one of the many crystal sets that we'll see, Philco tubes, and the DKE, nothing better, I think is what it says. Is that close, John?
Yeah, so so much better, but
So much better. Yeah. Okay. And from what Altiston to old, from old to new. They're showing the old version and the new in this catalog. This is a rather nice looking set. Let's see, and all of the prices are just amazingly low.
Is that a Phillips?
This
Yeah.
one, this one's a Phillips. You can see
Yeah.
right in the middle of the screen there.
What a nice little set.
Yeah. And another guy that I don't recognize, I don't know many of these radios, but I thought you'd be interested. There's a fantastic early microphone. Whoops, go back to that. Early microphone, you can see it's suspended by springs in this case. Over on the left of it is that Polish spy radio. But microphones like this, you never see in America. And I don't think I've ever seen one even at Friedrichshafen in 40 years. A bunch of spark coils for spark transmitter. Look at this tube tester. This thing is just beautiful. Got sockets for every kind of tube you could ever imagine. And this thing on the right is a stack of cards. And all you do is take one of those cards, put it into the card reader, and the thing is programmed to test whatever tube you plug into it.
Oh, that's awesome. That probably like weighs 80 pounds.
Beautiful. Here's a British World War I radio receiver, very, very rare crystal detector receiver. And this is a World War I aircraft spark transmitter. This device was carried in the aircraft for sending spark messages to the ground. And then we started on a whole bunch of these little sets. There are just hundreds and hundreds of them, quite fascinating. The thing that you see here is a battery with multiple taps. So you can buy this battery and hook it up and get any of these voltages that you need just by plugging your plug into it. Very
clever.
Very neat little battery. Here's another one of those sets with a bunch of coupling coils on the left, a bunch of tubes, just tons of these. Here's a duplex detector, it says, and you can see the two crystal detectors up there. I don't know quite why you need two of them, but I can't argue with them. And it is, says it is, let's see, what's the brand name down here? Intenso Funk. So it's an intense radio. Funk is radio. Another one, absolutely neat looking little guy, and another detector and another detector and more detectors. They're just tables full of these things. They're really into them. Here's a lovely little crystal set with a coil and another one right next to it and another one right next to it. And they just go on and on. Beautiful old, very strange typewriter. I wasn't able to figure out why they needed two sets of letters on it, but maybe some of the letters are unusual. Let's see what we, now they all look pretty much the same. Maybe it's upper and lowercase keyboard. I don't know. Anyway, the neat thing about this show is you just wander along and you see fascinating stuff. This is just a player piano roll for music. Here's a whole bunch of handheld single earphones. I don't know what you'd use these for. I guess if you have a big group of people that want to hear something that they don't want other people to hear, you could have each person have one of these things up to their ear. Very, very odd. There's a rather familiar looking little RCA set. So you have a mix of some American radios in there. An X-ray tube down in this display down here. you see a bunch of Geisler tubes, and Geisler tubes glow in beautiful, beautiful colors when you put an electric voltage on them. And you can see you put the electricity in the upper left and it flows out in the upper right. And meanwhile, it passes through all of these Geisler tubes. It's a high voltage display thing. Just watching my time here. I gotta give you about another minute of this and then we'll go on with this next time. This is some kind of a camera, the Wimshurst machine, ultra high voltage static electricity machine, used often as a quack medical treatment for people. This was particularly used as a medical device, this particular one, and just cases and cases of tubes. All kinds of juicy tubes. If you're a tube collector, you can just go nuts in this place. This is a really weird looking one. I didn't take down the number of it, but it looks odd enough to be fascinating. Wonderful little box. You never leave a box like this closed. You open it up and sure enough, there inside is a wonderful old microphone and a telegraph key and a meter. And what else do we have here? Another spark coil, another one of these radios. Just tons and tons of these little radios that people have used and built during in Europe. In the upper right there, a beautiful Edison phonograph, a bunch of additional tubes, and I don't know exactly what these tubes are, but I didn't have a chance to look closely at them. They looked interesting. A mirror galvanometer in the middle there, another one in the middle here, and more of these radios, lots of them. This one particularly caught my interest because it had little diagrams on it, and I guess you could tune in various stations. The ground connection is here. I think the antenna's up here. I don't know what it uses for a detector, but I guess the earphones hook on the other side. And one more, what have we got? One more, two more of these, another one and another one. And that's enough for tonight. We'll go on with these when we have a few minutes some other time, but I do encourage you, if you're into really weird radios, to join me at the show. It's always the last weekend in June in Friedrichshafen, Germany, which is at the southern end of Germany. It's right on a beautiful big lake called Lake Constance, and wives love the lake while you play in the show. Over and out.
Thanks, Tom.
That's even more reason to go down to Friedrichshafen, because I could also go to the Zeppelin Museum. You can also spend the extra money and get yourself a ride in the next generation Zeppelin, which of course is just their standard blimp. And
just a couple of other comments. Everybody there speaks English, so you don't have to worry about that. And in most cases, they will take US dollars instead of euros, because right now they're real close together. In the old days, you really had to bring a lot of euros with you when you went to that show.
Yeah, that's I definitely need to get there one of these years.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Yes, a couple of months ago, I showed you a Sonotone hearing aid. Okay, and at the time, I could only show you the battery compartment, and I didn't know whether it was transistor or tube. Well, the secret's out. It's got 3 tubes.
Oh, those are tiny, aren't they? Wow.
Yeah, and a beautiful workmanship.
Wow.
Of the wiring, so a couple of resistors and so on.
Yeah.
So let me just see if I can get closer.
See if I can pin you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I wanted to show you that before I lose it.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah. It's in beautiful condition. That's the main thing, because the box was perfect.
That's impressive.
Okay. Anyway, Tom's stuff was very impressive in Friedrichshafen. I've often wanted to go. There's also a ham fair there.
That's
Uh,
that's it. That's the
Oh, that
same
was the
thing.
ham fair. I thought it
Yeah,
was just
this is,
antiques.
this is called ham radio followed by the year. So this was ham radio 2022. And they've had it for about 50 years at this place. They used to have it in a big building where they built the Zeppelins for World War II, the blimps. And now they have a special exhibition center and it's just huge. Normally you get 20,000 people, which is fairly close to Dayton Hamfest size, but this year they were down to about 10 or 12,000 due to the COVID and the war and other things.
Well, that's a good size area because, you know, a blimp was, Zeppelins were around 800 or so feet. So lots of floor space.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Thank you for that sneak preview there, Tom.
You're welcome.
But you have to give us a close-up of your two Enigmas in the future.
Someday when I get it restored, it'll be very nice.
Excellent.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Brad here, AA1IP.
Sure.
I don't have a clock radio to show, but I have a story about a clock radio.
Sure.
My brother-in-law is a sports card fan, and he tends to go around to all kinds of yard sales. And he brought back this clock radio for me, straight AM, clock on one side, and tuning dial for the radio on the other. And I neglected it for a while, and then decided, gee, I should really see if it works. It didn't, but turned the radio around and said, okay, let's take the back off. Removed 4 screws and started to pull the back out, and it wasn't making much progress. So I peered inside and discovered there was a buildup of wax that was holding the back onto the chassis. Okay, let's dig a little bit further. I noticed one thing that I thought, well, while the caps had blown out, usually a paper capacitor's got a brown wax in it. This was a pink, almost translucent wax, and there was a lot of it. It had dripped down through various openings in the chassis and gummed up the components. And I was mystified as to what was going on here. I looked a little closer and discovered that on the inner upper part of the cabinet, there was a foil liner drill applied to keep the tube heat from, I guess, from distorting the plastic. And there was smudge marks on that. And immediately below the smudge marks was a piece of black burned looking twine in the wax. And I put 2 and 2 together and discovered that somebody had taken the back off this radio, put in a candle, lighted the candle, screwed the back on. And I'm not sure where it went after that, but it could have been an attempted arson, or it could have been someone with mental problems. But I've got pictures of it.
Raised radio
I'll
repurposer.
try to bring in next time.
Interesting.
So
Very interesting.
all that's brown and wax, they were. If you can picture how much wax is in a small candle, that's how much it melted all over everything in that set.
Oh, yikes.
Mystery solved. Well, I'll be quick. I have a couple of things I can show here. Hopefully, let's see here. We will not do them justice here. So one is acquisition from Mr. Van Beek. They're very nice Philco radio only. So we've got
love it.
Very nice metal back in shape with working switches. And though I haven't put my percolator into this yet, we have the timer concept, but it's in great shape. Little rosette knobs, very nice, a beauty. And this actually sits in the is nice enough that we can put it in the sort of general purpose family room, and nice set, nice piece.
That's beautiful.
And the label right on the bottom. So we have the Philco Clock Radio Model A, complete instructions on use.
Very
If-
nice. Now, from
Very
what
nice.
year is that roughly, Paul?
Greg, where you acquired this, you're a little bit more Mr. Philco than I am. What would you have for a year on something like this? 40?
That is actually a 1931, believe it or not.
31. Wow.
No.
For some reason, I was
It's
going to say I
quite a
thought
bit.
this was right before production they might have shut things off for the war.
No, that was made for an accessory for your Model 90, the Cathedral.
This
You
is
plug
in
it in.
beautiful shape, and the label, obviously for something of that vintage, I mean, is very
The
legible.
purpose of it was to turn your radio on and off at a certain time.
I see. Interesting. Now, did they make their own, clock mechanism, 60 hertz clock mechanism, or is that a Telechron that's been rebadged?
That's the original mechanism. I'm not sure if Philco themselves made it or not, but
Or
they
if they had
did
a
make it.
partnership, perhaps.
Yeah,
It's,
they
it's
did
funny.
make a clock radio.
Yeah, I'm
The
just
other thing
wondering.
that's kind of neat on this is and you can't really tell, with the reflections and through the glass, but the face of the dial itself
Mhm.
is a fairly heavy, sometimes these were decals or very thin, or, you'd have problems with them. This is very nicely screened onto a fairly heavy piece of metal sheeting, and, has stood up beautifully with age.
That's just absolutely perfect.
I'm glad Greg didn't have any more room and had to get rid of it.
That was the case.
And I'll close with this, just an actual clock radio. And this is a Philco
Oh, yeah.
6-tube 4222 CL. Let's see if we can kind of give this a.
Now that's another
catch.
looker.
And this is beautifully restored. This is a Ron Ramirez piece. He did the case, he did the electronics,
Mhm.
and
I love the
it was
symmetry.
a masterful job. Nice back, still in
Yeah.
shape. Now, the nifty thing about this, and I'm not sure if you can tell if I do this, let's spin this around. So if you can see through the opening where the clock sits on the front of the radio,
Hmm.
ingeniously retrofitted with a quartz. I don't know if there was a problem with the clock itself, but this has a quartz clock movement installed, runs on a AA battery,
I see it.
and has the actual Philco hands nicely fitted into the front.
Huh.
So essentially you change the battery from time to time, but if you don't want to leave your antique radio plugged in all the time, you're not going to, though I do have to change the battery, but you don't have to worry about, taking out the plug and causing yourself the necessity of having to reset the time. But it's a beautiful piece and it plays pretty well. And the case is just a corker, and it's a nice one. I've seen them around a little bit, but I don't see them in this type of shape, certainly. So don't know what it looked like when he acquired it, but I was certainly fortunate to get it off him pretty much ready to plug and play. So it's a nice piece. It sits on my Philco 45L lowboy, which is in the living room. This case is much nicer than the 45L, but the 45L is all original case. So another nice piece, though.
Very nice.
So those are my show and tells. I have a maybe one more clock radio somewhere, but it's not within easy run. So I will close with that this evening.
And your example there has the advantage that it keeps time when you lose power.
True.
Yeah. I really like the symmetry. It's a nice, elegant design on that, Paul.
Yeah, it would look, I could easily see that, being, so 42. So that's the last model year before they went to war production. I could easily see this in like a den or on the desk, a 40s vintage man cave somewhere, where you would have that next to your giant ashtray and your ink blotter and custom ballpoint pen set, so.
I think it has just a standard 5-tube transitone chassis in it, but it's a nice design.
Yeah, it's actually this one. Let me just double check here. I believe, as you can see the layout here. This is a 6-tube set,
Ah, 6.2, okay.
and it sounds pretty decent for what it is. You know, the speaker obviously is a little on the smaller side, but you know, I use an external antenna occasionally, and it's a nice little player.
Mhm.
Oh, how cool. Pardon me.
Those are my clock items for this week.
Cool. Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Tom, while I think of it, just one question for you. What is the difficulty, if any, you know, should somebody from the States purchase a piece? You know, I know the smaller pieces might be easier. Say you bought a fairly decent sized table radio at the Friedrichshafen show. What's involved in getting it back? I mean, you know, given the state of the airlines and just, you know, what I've seen done to luggage, I would be nervous of packing something that to come home with me. Is there any issues? Have you ever brought anything home that was a pretty decent sized piece? How'd you do it?
Hey, Paul.
Yes.
Tom had to depart.
He dropped it off. Okay, well, I'm not in gallery view and I did not look at my participant list. But that will be my next question for him. I
There
don't
you
know how
go.
you would get something like that home. I know Howard Mariotti actually bribed a Ukrainian official at the airport to bring home one of his radios.
Yeah,
So $20 US seemed to do the trick, but he actually managed to bring it on into the cabin with him. But I wouldn't want to put anything as nice as some of those sets that I saw in a airline luggage compartment and somehow hope it would make it back to Boston.
It's Paul. I got a couple.
Sure.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'm going to share screen.
Sure, go ahead. You're free to share, Len.
All right, so this first one, it's kind of a stretch. It's got a clock and a radio, but they're not connected, obviously. And it's a Beaver Machine Company Baby Grand crystal set and a clock, but it's in a it's made by India Ivory Company in Providence.
Interesting.
Nifty.
So there's a little ad for the Beaver set, the Beaver crystal set itself. That was separate, but
It's not a
then-
junky toy, but a handsomely built
yeah,
instrument. You'll want to keep one yourself.
Yeah, it's a nice weight to it too. Is that
And
a
then,
wind up? Is that electric clock or is it wind up?
it's a wind up. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then this is another stretch. It's a Crosley Playtime.
Oh, wow.
Again, the radio and the clock are not attached to each other. in any
Those are
way.
nice. Very nice. That graces the entrance to your home.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it is in the
Complete
foyer.
with seasonal foliage display.
Yep.
No extra cost.
Very
That's
nice.
a nice one. Some
And
beautiful.
that's
Now,
it.
did you have to rework that cabinet, or is that in its shape as you found it?
No, I did. Believe it or not, there was a car radio right
Interesting.
here. I bought this for $11 at a church flea market,
Oh, wow.
and there was a car radio cut right here. So
Oof.
I rebuilt this whole panel.
Wow.
Luckily,
Very
they
nice.
didn't get into this bird's eye part because that would have been pretty hard to replace. But so it was about where these three knobs were, and the chassis was gone. I ended up having to find the chassis and the speaker, but the clock worked. And
It's a beauty.
and I actually found out about fake finishes because I tried to refinish around here.
Yeah.
And it was like a leopard pattern. And I took it was a full finish, and I just stripped the finish right off.
Whoopsie.
So I ended up having to I put real veneer back. That's got the same kind of leopard pattern, not leopard, tiger pattern, I guess.
That's a true labor of love there, Len.
Yeah. Well, for $11, I couldn't pass it up.
Oh, you got a bargain. Everyone's getting these $11 and then the $5 Philco earlier.
Yeah.
But you know what, for the amount of volume per dollar for weight, got a super bargain, Len.
Yeah. But that's it.
Oh,
So
thank you.
Thank you.
How do I stop sharing here?
I can do it for you.
Okay, yep.
Hey, look who's here. Ross Hochstrasser. I think this is your maiden voyage on.
It is. It is. I managed to get a Thursday night with no service calls.
Awesome. And we ought to give you some time just to look at the backdrop, no less. You've got to have a clock radio.
That's real. Oh, is that the topic? Clock radios?
We just happened to be. We thought that I was guessing that was the time that brought you in.
He
Hold-
doesn't
hold-
do
hold-
clocks. He's
Hold
not
on. Hold on. Follow me.
Follow me.
Oh, wow.
Those kind of clock radios? Can you even see
Ooh.
those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's a whole gaggle of Emerson 724Ds.
Brightly colored.
I have all 9 colors.
Whoop. Did we lose you there, Ross?
Did my audio go away?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Oh, probably because I'm not talking in the microphone. I even have the ad from a Life magazine that lists all the decorated colors that shows this radio from about 1953. So
Wow.
that's it for the clock radio.
Well,
Hey,
you know,
does your advertisement list a price? How much were those selling for?
It doesn't say.
Uh,
It doesn't say.
inquire at your local dealer.
But there's a clock. That's oh shoot. Why is my phone ringing? Hang on a second. That's probably Adam. Hold on.
told you never to call me here.
Service call.
Yeah,
Just watch the pendulum.
there we go. Look at that.
I'm getting very sleepy.
Now, see, what I'm really hoping for is if it's not a service call. And
Yeah, that was my buddy W1 GTX. He has pretty much the same mess that's behind me at his house, about 1.5 miles from here. So the town of Whitman is sinking into the ground from the weight of all these radios. And there's more of them. There's all sorts of stuff hiding back here. You know, there's all
This is
sorts
why
of-
Rob says I really don't want to take these things home that I brought to Brookline. I really
Wow, this is now. How far below ground have you reached at this point, Ross?
Well, I'm actually still about 4 feet above ground here. I'm in the first floor of my barn, which is full of stuff, mostly customer repair work, not radios, clocks. But why did that do that? My master clock just hiccuped. Anyways, so that's, well, let me see, I may as well give you the whole tour here. We'll
Yeah,
look
why not?
around.
Let's break off and give us a tour.
This is my bench. Can I take the camera off this thing? Yeah, double stick tape. Gotta love it. Okay, so this is the shut this light off. The workbench. I'm seeing the image backwards kind of here, but starts over in this corner with my green, I don't know if you can see it, my green automatic electric 8090 phone there. And there's a 1400 watt stereo system in here just because you have to have background music.
Nice.
There's all sorts of tube amplifiers up there on the wall. There's a Harman Kardon Citation 2 right there.
They see an Audi emblem there.
Well, you know, when you go to the junkyard and you have tools, you know, you just bring home what you need to bring home.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. I have all sorts of headlight pods and stuff. the headlight pods in that car probably cost $1,000 a piece at the Audi dealer. I got them for $35 a piece at the junkyard. So they have little servo motors in them and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The headlights move with the steering wheel. There's the
Oh, yes.
biggest. There's the biggest radio I own right there. That is a T368 transmitter. It dates from 1956. It weighs 650 pounds.
Oh,
It's on
Wow.
wheels. I don't know if you can see. There's a 390A there on the floor in front of it, but it's on wheels. There's a set of Gold Dust twins hiding in the corner over there. Whoops, there we go. That's the ham shack basically right there. And then the shop is over on the other side of the room. And it is such a mess. I would be embarrassed to even attempt to show you that. It is a complete disaster over there. So anyhow,
Don't be proud there, Ross. We're happy to see the other goodies.
it's a mess. I'd have to pick up my computer and walk over there next time. Some other time we'll do clocks. This is radios over here. But yeah, so that's it. So don't let me hog things here. I don't want to do that.
No, this is fine. You know, we got a good part of interesting show and tells already earlier. So this is as a pleasant surprise to have you join us.
Well, I've been meaning to for a long time, but like I say, I'm usually doing other things on Thursday nights. I'm usually out on the road working on grandfather clocks or something. So,
Well, you feel free, drop on by.
so the exciting event today was I had a 16-year-old girl here with her dad, and she has decided that she wants to be a ham radio operator.
Oh boy.
She dropped in a week ago, and I gave her a business card from my ham radio club here in Whitman, and the Morse code is on the back. Well, she claims that she knows all the letters, all the numbers, and she's working on punctuation 1 week later. And she sat down here I gave her a code practice oscillator. She sat down here and hammered out the whole alphabet for me. And very impressed with that. I'm very, very happy that we have a 16-year-old anything that wants to become a ham radio operator. So the fact that she's a girl makes it even an extra 2 points for that. So that was very exciting to have something. I'm hoping that I can get her and probably one or both of her parents roped into my class in September. We have a technician class starting on September 1st. Tuesday and Thursday nights for the whole month, and then test on the 29th. So maybe we can hopefully get her, although she's going to be busy with school. She's a senior in high school this year. She's got AP courses. She's going to be a busy camper, as it were. So anyhow,
Join the guys on the nest.
join the guys on the net. She's already listening to our Monday night net. We have a Monday night net on 3923 lower sideband. And I directed her towards the Kensington, New Hampshire web SDR, and she dials into that and listens to us.
Very good.
So there's also a lady up at Brookline, a lady named Lisa. She was set up right across from me outside. She actually has a ham call sign, but I don't think she's ever been on the air. But she also has been dialing in and listening to our Monday night net, which is called the Thick as a Brick net. Go figure. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Here we go. The Thick as a Brick net. Does anybody remember this record? From 1972? Anyhow.
Jethro Tull, right?
What was that?
Jethro Tull.
Jethro Tull, absolutely. It's an epic piece of music.
How old is Ian Anderson these days? Who knows?
We went to see him probably 15 years ago, and he just had surgery on one of his knees, so he wasn't jumping around the stage like he used to do. But anyhow, well, there is that. There is that. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Ross. Good to see you in here.
Good to be seen rather than viewed.
So John, when you mentioned Zeppelin, one of the things my many vices. My son likes to go to the comic book shop. There's one up in Waltham here, Outer Limits Comics. So he doesn't have any radios, but he has a mother load of comics, collectibles, vintage toys. Like you read them. He's got a lifelong collection. He's a very nice man too. So anyway, so we go, and I'm fond of Jonah Hex and certain other arcane comics, but I happen to find this. Now, it is a reproduction, but I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
So this is apparently taken from a Goodyear.
I love it.
Sign from the day. And we've got planes, tires, Zeppelins, ships, trains, and cars, all which would be in tough shape if they didn't have the benefits of the Goodyear rubber companies at their disposal. But
that's cool. I really like that ad.
I like the color of the bright, backlighting, so to speak, for the Goodyear on the letters. So nice little piece. So you never know what you find when you go to the comic book store, you know?
That's cool. I like it.
No. It's in nice shape too, not a flea bite. So we'll find a home for that amidst all the other stuff that I need to find homes for in the house. But anyway. Let's see. Anybody else in the group have a story, something to share? Summer rest.
Just a comment.
Yes, sir.
I have a small Zenith clock radio. Well, yeah, small clock radio, digital, all this. And it's been working for quite a long time. Well, we upgraded to a solar powered system. And the clock now runs fast. So at first I was thinking, well, maybe there's a fast, slow adjustment inside. Then it occurred to me to look into the inverter. So actually it's a Tesla system, and it turns out that you cannot count on that being 60 hertz. It does vary, which is the power lines, you're going to get 60 hertz, period.
Yeah.
And so synchronous clocks and things like this one, which probably counts the 60 hertz, clocks work fine. Put it on a solar, that's off. Just a comment. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on, but I wouldn't swear to it on a Bible, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on.
Now, how much further ahead would it run? I mean,
there's a possibility that the inverter is giving out a not quite sine wave. And if it has edges on it, slightly square, that don't affect bulbs or other equipment, it could affect a clock.
I will put a scope on it and see if that's the case.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. I just Tesla themselves say that they do change the inverter frequency, something dealing with to turn off the solar cells, or I didn't quite understand what they were talking about, but there have been some complaints to them about it. So that's why I kind of think it might be what you're saying. It might be the frequency, but it does seem to be the inverter that's probably causing this issue. And I think if you fix clocks, you're probably going to get a bunch of people over time saying, "Hey, what's with this thing?"
It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy to make us all dependent on WWV.
I have a question. Does the inverter mess up your radio reception?
Oddly enough, no. I mean, when I first put it in, I got a whole lot of noise. I was thinking, oh, wow. But then all that noise went away. There is something else that's generating occasional, mostly on 80 meters. It's almost like flat across the band on 80 meters. But then sometimes it just goes off entirely. And I'm running, stuff in here. So I don't think I'm getting any RFI out of it. I kind of expect that I would, but nothing that I've noticed that horribly yet.
Well, that's good. Probably better than a lot of, wall warts and LED lighting. There's hundreds of other things that could cause you trouble. So if you're getting
this whole thing started, I had a 100-watt panel that I had purchased a long time ago from Costco, and the movers moved it here. So a little while when I was unpacking, I found it again. So I set that up, charging a battery. That's what you hear in the background. I have an inverter just to run my computers. And I kind of liked it so much. That's why I went to Tesla or started pricing out solar systems. But this inverter, it's a Renogy. I haven't seen anything RFI from it. Maybe lucky.
You're lucky.
Yeah. So that's why I'm going to go back to mute because I think you're probably hearing that inverter fan turning on and off.
No,
I'm
it's
not
not,
here.
it's not a major deal. I wouldn't worry about it.
Paul, I've got something that has nothing to do with clock radio.
Well, that's fine.
That's quite all right.
So
What do you
as
got?
some of you may know, I play in a classic rock band again. I took a break during COVID because nobody wanted to get together and play music with me. But after that settled down, I got an invitation to start playing music with some guys again. And we take turns bringing beer to rehearsal. And one guy brought this. I don't know if you can see it, but that's a radio dial.
Oh, God.
Wow.
And this is called I'm a Radio India Pale Ale. And it's brewed by a company called Zero Gravity Brewery. They're in Burlington, Vermont. And
Oh, okay.
I haven't popped it yet. I'm saving it for a special occasion, but I didn't drink it at practice. I brought it home with me. So anyway, I'm a Radio India Pale Ale.
Look for it at your local package store, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, does reception improve as you drink it, or do you getting any benefit?
I'll let you know.
Maybe,
Does it get the band more or less in tune?
Again, I'll let you know.
And the next installment, right here on the Mutual Broadcasting Network. Very nice.
funny.
Paul, Russ
Yes.
here.
Yes, Ross.
You should remind all these people to go on the internet and listen to our old radio shows that you and I did several years ago. I actually listened to most of them last week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I've been dialing in. I've been
Did they get
sending them.
better with age, or is it
They do actually.
fun? Yeah,
They're actually pretty good.
some are better than
I,
others.
Yeah, it's well, it's Tube Talk.
That's correct.
Tube Talk, WSDA.
Yeah, that's correct. So I maintain, with the help of a friend out in the Archie Club, a website, tubetalkclassicradio.org, and there are probably in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 140 episodes of this program that I did on Broker Time out of WRCA in Waltham, 1330. And, they're generally speaking combinations of vintage music and interviews with people in the radio hobby. So Mr. Hochstrasser graced the airwaves with us on several occasions, being a local guy. He even came into the studio. We had some fun. And, we had various interviews with people from different clubs. We had interviews from people who had written books pertaining to things radio. Some nights were music shows, some nights were old time radio shows, but it's a potpourri, so to speak. And as I said, some were better than others. I had never done radio. I had always listened to a lot of radio, but I had never done radio until I walked in to the studio, and on about 15 minutes notice was then said, okay, here you go. This is the turntable. This is the CD player, and this is the computer. And I got a lot of production help from Stu Fink, who ran the station at the time, and they were kind of gobbled up. Beasley Broadcasting came in, and Grady Media, Boston. They did this whole big reorg. 1330 AM now is a Bloomberg station. But it was fun, and some of the shows got better. The timing it's an interesting thing to be kind of standing in a room with a microphone saying, okay, what do we do next? So, but the computer makes things a little bit easier. It's, when you're pre-recording something to go in the can, you can close up your gaps and cover your pauses and edit things that didn't come out quite right. So it was kind of an interesting view into how things can actually be done on a shoestring and have some value. So we got, listeners from all over, but it was fun. And Ross was very kind to come on and discuss all things radio. So we got some good feedback from people in the hobby too, where it's streamed. It was nice. We also had people who listened on the air, but yes, if you might find a guest or a topic or something of interest. It's, they're all archived by year. So maybe you find somebody in the hobby, or you could listen to the Hochstrasse episodes, which are probably the creme de la creme of the.
You're just saying that because I'm sitting here.
That's just as soon as you're gone, I'm telling you it's Steve Cushman out in California.
Yeah.
But
That was
no,
a
it
lot of
fun.
fun.
We talked, there were some people who listened to this who were not in the hobby who told me they enjoyed the music, but they thought it's kind of novel. These people are still listening to AM radios and communication sets and old record players. And so we promoted some of the shows, some of the Brookline events and radio events and all too. So it was fun, but they're all there in the archives. And currently I pay the bills on it and have no plans on taking it down. So for posterity and for your listening pleasure, they're out there. Did you feel you knew more or less about radio, Ross, after you listened to those?
You should send them their email.
I quite honestly, I was just kind of listening to my own shows, and I do want to start listening to everybody else's too. But the thing that I particularly listen for is when I go, I want to make, I just kind of, I consciously try to avoid making sounds like that don't add anything to the conversation, and going and saying, you got to avoid saying,
Well,
and
those things
Yes.
you work on, but it adds an air of authenticity because I think everybody runs into that. But yes, that is part of the radio mentality. Try to cut down on, if you're going to say something, have it have a value rather than just a. But
exactly.
I've done a few of those myself, a lot.
I was surprised at how few there were. The ones that were there did bother me a lot, but it wasn't that much. I actually consciously made an effort not to go too much.
I think the other thing too is if as an interview you can kind of keep things rolling along quickly and ask a question or react, it keeps people talking rather than reflecting on what to say next. So you generally get a little bit less of that. But yeah, so there's some interesting stuff there. So we are working on a few upcoming things for the Zooms. One I can share with you. He's agreed to come on and join us. Tom Kleinschmidt out in the Chicago Club. They'll be doing Radio Fest for the first time in a couple of years on a much bigger scale. So that's the the Midwest premier club event. So he's agreed to photograph it like there's no tomorrow and come on and walk us through and give us the rundown on attendance and some of the themes and exhibits. And he'll join us at a Zoom probably later in August or maybe September to do that.
Excellent.
And we have a couple of other feelers out. I've invited Jordan Rich from WBZ. I have not heard from, but we'll kind of chase him as politely as I can. And a couple of other things which I'm trying to nail down. So for something that's a little bit, get somebody in the circle who's not part of our club and have some fun with it. So if you have any ideas or know any people that you think would be of interest, or have a topic or a book or something to share or a concept or a particularly large collection or unique collection, let us know and we'll try to track them down, see if they'd be interested in spending some time with us. Other than that, I'm good to go, John, and it's about 8:30.
Oh, look at that. We are ending
Right on time.
potentially right.
Much like the precision clocks we looked at this evening.
Extremely rare, but that's actually very good. Because usually, but actually on the flip side, sorry.
I said, don't be a stranger, Ross. Come on down anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have a topic or you would like to show us some more of your sets, whether they're imported consumer sets or your extensive boat anchors, let us know and we'll try to get you time and put something together you can share with the group.
Absolutely. We got to have Ross give us a tour of the barn, and it's where all the exciting gear live.
Well, that could be a multi-part episode, but we'll work it out.
That's okay.
It would probably have to be.
I'm all in. I'm all in.
Before the front end loader shows up.
Yeah, but
before my kids chuck it all in a dumpster.
Well,
All
you
right.
know, I have a few things going in as well in terms of future Zoom topics, because we still have some members who don't rarely go to, to our Zoom meetings, so might be able to get some nice presentations. So we're trying to assemble between Paul and myself some reasonable topics to show in the coming weeks. And,
So stay tuned, as they say, and we'll keep you posted.
yes. Well, without further ado, I suppose I wish everybody
All right.
a great
Gentlemen, have a
upcoming
great
weekend.
night. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Thanks,
Have a good
everybody.
one.
Thanks for everybody.
Take care, guys.
Great. Thanks for attending, Ross, and everybody else. Great to see
Thanks for
everybody.
showing us and sharing your stories and sets. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
73, as we say on the air.
Yeah,
73.
73.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks,
You're
John.
welcome.